Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Crypto Talk Now Network station. This is Max, and we're doing a live video today, and it's not going to be on XRP. It's actually going to be on a little bit of Jasmine. We have some other things to report on. We're going to talk about some Nexera, believe it or not. We got some LCX for you guys. We got some H-bar and some Casper, and it's going to finish off the night with some IOTA. I know, it's jam-packed. There's a lot of we're going to be talking about. So sometimes you guys see some things tagged, and you think, why does Max tag that? You know, he doesn't need to tag that. He's never going to cover that. The heck, I'm not. So please smash that like. We're going to get into all this stuff here in a little bit. And let's start things off with putting on some more banners for, you know, the disclaimers and so on. Please don't sue me, right? Oh, you caused me to get wrecked. Actually, I don't think I caused anybody to really get wrecked. If you really look into it, I think a lot of you guys are doing pretty well, especially some of you guys from the past, XDC and so on, right? Anyway, let's jump into it. QNT also, right? $40. Oh, there's a few. Anyway. Let's welcome Crypto Talk Now. Let's see here. Selmo Flood, welcome, man. Glad to have you here, Mr. Selmo. This is Crypto Talk Now. What is up, Max? What is up, Selmo Flood? Glad to have you here, man. I always appreciate the support. Saw your post earlier. Glad that you have a plan, you know, for all this stuff. You guys noticed that we changed the name briefly. We've done it before. It's not just DYOR of Max. I mean, in reality, that's what we're going to do. But it's also lock and load. What are you guys locking and loading on, right? You know, when we get to LCX segment, they specifically go out of their way to mention ICP. I thought that was interesting. Thought I would bring it to you guys. We'll talk about it at that particular time. Let's also welcome Tim Shea, who says, hey, glad to have you here. Tim Shea, Mayor of Crypto, the Crypto Commissioner representing the 589th district of the XRP Army. All right, going further down, Brittany. Hello, is it Brittany we're looking for? Not Lionel Richie. Thank you for being here, Brittany. Really appreciate you, as always. L. Wright Sr. is here. Evening, everyone. Hey, Maxie. Hello. Thank you for being back here, L. Wright Sr. All right, we're also going to welcome Mike. He says, sup, buying ABT and QNT. Awesome, man. Welcome back, Mike. Hope you're doing well. Really mean that. All right. While we wait for a few more people to filter in, it might be kind of a weird day. You know, there's a lot of fear. Maybe our numbers aren't going to be that great. I don't know. We'll see. If anything, though, you guys could smash the like. We only have 10 likes. Please smash the like because it does trigger the algorithm. More people come in. That's just how it works. It's kind of a weird thing. You know, it's like the YouTube algorithm basically is like, think about this, right? Am I too far off? It's kind of like a new restaurant that opens. Now, psychologically speaking, this restaurant could be like the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? But on the outside, if nobody, you know what I mean? Like there's no traffic, you know what I'm saying? Like people just psychologically might not even stop in there. But if it's a place in which, man, you know, this place is really popping. There's a lot of people outside here. I think I'll go there. Get where I'm going with it? YouTube algorithm. Basically that same type of concept. So by all means, smash that like. Well, Max, it just seems like you just need to, you know, hire a bunch of kids to come to your restaurant. I'm not talking about a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. All right, let's go further down. We got the one, the only Mr. Boomer Effort Sooner. Yes, everybody who was drifting off on Eastern Standard Time was just like, man, I had a long day, bro. I just want to go sleep. And this guy's going to say, Boomer F it sooner. That's just how it works sometimes. So welcome, Boomer F it sooner. Appreciate you. We got Mr. Brian Dowie. Glad to have you here back. Mr. Brian Dowie. Mr. Brian F. Dowie. Not really, but you know what I mean. The other stepbrother with Mr. Tim Shea. The step bros are in the house. Well, we have the other bros, which is Blackwood and River. There's Blackwood and River in the house. You know, paging Dr. Green Thumb. Remember that old song? Anyway, so you guys know your hip hop. You know what I'm talking about. Hip hop T, don't stop. All right, let's welcome a few more, you guys. There's River. Where is Blackwood then? You know, is he going to show up late? I don't know. All right, let's welcome JC the man. Pointing to his head. He's like, yeah, very intelligent kid. I'll tell you that much. Josh Cornwell, welcome. Glad to have you here. Hopefully you're, enjoying the rest of your night. You might actually have to be going to bed here soon, huh? Well, not really. 8:21 your time. Anyway. All right, let's see here. We also got... We really welcome River, of course. We got Corey B-Bay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for everything, Max. You're very, very welcome. Glad to do it. I'm more enthusiastic today, even with a lesser crowd. I don't know. It's okay. Great deep dive on Stellar Sorbonne video. Awesome as always. Thank you very much. I got some more. I got to chop it up, and bring it to you guys. It just takes time. A lot of time that's involved, It's what it is sometimes, Anyway, be sure nice to be able to get some help with that, but that's okay. All right, let's see here. We're glad to have you here, Corey, as always. Really appreciate the support, man, both on the live and the recorded. That's awesome. All right, there's River saying, gentlemen. Is it you that, would always say something like, here's a fist, and to everybody else I didn't fist earlier, here's another fist. Maybe that's somebody else. I don't know. Maybe it's your other stepbrother, Mr. Blackwood. All right. Brian, lock and load, bro. Oh, God. Here we go. That's some good stuff. I'm glad you guys are having a good time. That's what it's about, right? It's not always just serious stuff all the time, right? It's a combination of, chilling out, relaxing, and looking all cool and shooting some b-ball outside of school. Why am I quoting the Fresh Prince? I don't know. All right. Mr. Lambo's Crypto Talk, CTN fam. Yes. We're going to get into the outline here in a bit. We're going to welcome a few more of you guys. Let's welcome also Patrick Collier. He says, Big Max, Thank you, Mr. Patrick Collier. Appreciate you, man. And let's see what else we got here. Chainlink and gonna finally test the waters with Caspa or my next moves. That's good stuff, man. All right. Says Homo Flood. All right, let's see here. We got Squidward, Edward Vincent. Says what up to Brian Dowie. And I guess that's what up to everybody else. I don't know. Squidward was telling me something about Mike Tyson earlier. And let me pull this up. It's kind of funny. He was telling me how Mike Tyson pronounces ISO 222. Are you aware of how that works? Well, if anything, I think Mr. Edward Vincent is. So he basically told me, how's this pronounced, Edward? I'm gonna pull this up again, just for reference. I don't know. It's kind of funny. Let me see if I could pull it up. You had a specific way how you spell that. I don't know. It's good stuff, guys. Just give me a second. I'm gonna pull this up for a second. What was that? Oh, it was a notification. I can't pull it up. Where the heck was it? Ah, man, I don't have it. But it was something like, ISO 222. And I said to him, Mike Tyson cannot pronounce Ethereum. And he was just like, Ethereum. Mike Tyson gonna buy the ISO 222, gonna get away from Ethereum. Anyway, it was funnier earlier. Whatever, right? All right, we're gonna welcome just a couple more people and kick it into what we have on our outline. Like I mentioned earlier, it's gonna be some of the things that are out of the norm, but are you locking and loading on a lot of this stuff, right? ICP, are you gonna be locking and loading on, I don't know, maybe more Nexera, Casper, Maybe you guys do some CASPA. Maybe you're like, been there, done that, Max. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what he's going to do with that, to be honest. I haven't talked to him for like 3 weeks or more. Can you imagine that? 3 weeks. The other half is CTN. 3 weeks. Anyway. Okay, that's all right, though. Let's go further down. I don't know. It might even be a month now. I don't know. I have to look to see how long it's been. All right, we got Humpty. He said, "What's up, fam? Welcome." He says he's got some crabs. What? You got some crabs? What up, fam? Got some crab butt and Oreo. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Crabs. You gotta be careful, like especially with what you showed in the past. You don't want to catch a good dose of crabs at the beach, right? Welcome. Glad to have you here. All right. I'll read one more comment. This comes from Corey B of A. He says he's reading up on XRP. You guys, here's the thing. Maybe it's XP. I don't think so. They are ISO compliant. They run off Metalis, Marshall, and one of the. You guys keep mentioning this. You know what? I'm gonna put this on my notes now. Well, why, Max? You put notes before, and you haven't gone around to it. That's true. At least I'm putting down some notes. At least I'm relaxing and taking notes. Let's put this down because you guys keep talking about it. It's kind of bugging me now. XPR-Proton. Okay. All right, there we go. So yeah, devs for Doge. Also work with Stellar. Looks interesting. That is interesting. Huh. All right. If I skipped anybody, it's not on purpose. Crypto Homes 777. Buy more QNT XRP and H bar. That's cool. Nilo B, welcome back. Nilo B. All right. We're just gonna jump into it, and yeah, let's see here. Yeah, you got plenty of that, huh? Yeah, you bet you do, Mr. Anyway. You know where I'm going with that. Anyway, Brian Dow taking hits from yeah, that's right. Biggie Smalls, Gonna smoke Biggie Smalls for mayor, the rap slayer. I'm not gonna say it on live air because the little kids gotta go and say their prayers. Brian Dowie, full of grace, smack up. Never mind, we're not gonna go with that. Let's get back to what we have. Please smash that like. Currently speaking, we are at 18 likes. Okay, it's kind of a weird attendance type of day. When there's a lot of fear, people are like, "The hell with these crypto shows. I don't want to tune into any of this stuff. I want, when and moon, right?" That's the bottom line. Earlier, speaking of Patrick Collier talking about when bars, Max, I'll tell you flat out, it's probably Selmo flood with the bars, but just real quick, I was listening to, Nas's new album, obviously Magic 2. Just real quick, we'll get into the crypto stuff in about 30 seconds, okay? Listen to Magic 2, and I love Office Hours with 50 Cent, right? And you want to talk about being innovative. Nas is so innovative with his rhymes. And I was literally in the car spitting out these rhymes about XRP, QNT in the flow of I guess you could say Nas, it ain't perfect because, I don't have a studio. I was like, you know what? YouTube would flag me for copyright, but Twitter wouldn't. Makes me want to write some rhymes. Who knows? We'll see what happens with that. No promises. All right. If anything, we'll use Patrick Collier's comment as a bookmark. And now let's get into our outline. All right. Please smash that like. We're going to start things off with a little bit of Jasmine, and it's a kind of your unconventional type of news when it comes to Jasmine. In the past we talked about data free flow with trust, right? DEFFT. Well, you could pretty much say there's kind of an update in regards to that. So I'm sure some of you guys have been paying attention to some of the deep dives that I've put out in regards to that. It's not gonna be a super long, oh great, he's gonna talk an hour on this. Peace, bye, adios, right? Max just talks about Jasmine every day, right? Well, we got to keep up with supply and the demand. The biggest base we have is Jasmine, QNT, probably some XLM, XTC. But nonetheless, let's jump into some recent news, okay? So I'm going to share this with you guys. Give me a second just to pull it up. And yeah, here it is. It comes from nippon.com. I'll share it in a way for you to see it. And basically speaking, it's just like how you see it right here. This is reported literally yesterday, right? So this is pretty new. News from Japan. Japan to put digital version of official gazette above paper. I mean, may be wondering, like, what is this all about? Well, that's what we do. We try to tie things together, make sense of all of it. So the Japanese government, did you know they're aiming to position the digital version of its official gazette above the paper version in 2024? The government plans to submit an extraordinary parliamentary session expected to be convened in autumn. It's a bill that's going to recognize the digital edition. Now, you may think, what does it have to do with any of the stuff that we talk about? We're going to get into all this stuff. It says, we will basically utilize the power of digital tech to drastically review administrative work, according to Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, told that in a meeting in regards to the government's Digital Extraordinary Administrative Advisory Committee all the way back on May 30th. He talks about, for instance, they're going to steadily promote the digitalization. Look at this for a second, of legislative work, including bringing the official gazette online. He added the Prime Minister instructed Digital Transformation Minister Taro Kono, and again, Taro Kono, right, biggest proponent of DFFT, and others to boost talks on the matter. Now, you understand the shift. I mean, if we can have like the biggest newspapers going digital, then what about some of these other bigger things, right? You get where I'm going with this? I mean, I've already seen it here in the United States on some things. You know, I remember Newsweek, right, before it basically went digital. This is not, for instance, an uncommon practice at this point. But like it shows here, the government uses the official gazette when promulgating laws. So, you know, if you wonder what that basically means, to, you know, have it be widely accepted, right? And treaties, and informing the general public of government personal changes, government procurement deals, and other public information. You know, when we talk about digitalizing all this stuff, why make such a big deal about it? Well, again, the shift, getting in with the times and so on. That's my, you know, why I want to bring it to you guys. Now, that's a little bit of an opener to kind of get you settled into what has been happening here recently. But nonetheless, here is what's also going on lately in regards to DFFT. And we're going to go ahead and zoom in on this. So I didn't want to get into the full giant outline in regards to, you know, everything that was listed here. But I will jump to the key areas that you need to pay attention to, especially if you have been following the deep dives in regards to data free flow of trust and so on, and why that's a big deal, not just for Japan, but let's be honest, you know, for the world, right? We talk about that regulatory framework. This is regulatory framework from the ground up. So the key areas here that I want to bring it to you. Key goals to take DFFT from concept to action. At the end of the day, hey, let's address the elephant in the room. You know, is that going to happen? Right. Check this out. The 2023 G7 ministers meeting provided a conceptual framework. Again, wasn't making that up. To bring DFFT to life with pragmatism. I'm not pronouncing that right. Flexibility and interoperability. I always like how they mention interoperability, and I also like how I tied everything in regards to interoperability. Not, you know, intentional, but it does sound pretty good, does it not? Anyway, ministers stated that, quote, trust should be built and realized through various legal and voluntary frameworks, guidelines, standards. And again, guys, I mean, even on the surface, you know, for all the people, especially some of the fudders that I saw who are like, do you have any sources? Sources on what? Future interoperability? Like, that sounds bizarre, you know? Again, like I was mentioned on the example, why would I give anybody a source on, for instance, Project Rosalind? You know, we covered that a while back, or Project Icebreaker, Project Hamilton. all that was speculative, but then it became true. You can't give a source on research of like, hey, there's probably some NDAs going on here, but you love the terminology that's basically mentioned here. So again, if you're just tuning in, check this out for a moment. All right. For one, interoperability. Number two, what's mentioned here, the standards. All right. When we talk about standards, that's why we always pay attention to certain standards. For over a year and a half now, we've been talking about ISO 222, right? The messaging standard. Quants, Overledger, when it comes to ISO TC 307, the Gilbert-Verdine Quant Network Standard, right? This goes on to mention technologies and other means that are transparent and protect data, right? What's Jasmine trying to do every single day, for crying out loud? Trying to create a real solid utility. It's already there. We just need mass adoption and so on, right? But we need more partnerships. We need more implementation. We need more of that mass adoption. But they are, let's face it, in Japan, probably the biggest proponent of protecting data. Goes on to mention that their goal, as in, what you see here, is to build upon commonalities, complementaries. I'm not even pronounce that right. I apologize. Too much reading today sometimes, and just the words become words. Again, I don't know if you know or you can relate to what I'm talking about. And elements of convergence between existing regulatory approaches and instruments enabling data to flow with trust in order to foster what? Future interoperability. I mean, if anything, if a person just read this and didn't even go on crypto Twitter or anything like that, they could say, could you give me a source on future interoperability? No, you can't give a source on future interoperability, but if anything, you do your proper research, you could tie things in, you could connect the dots just like anybody else. Check this out for a moment. All right, this is good stuff. I jumped to the good parts for you guys. The 2023 annex on the G7 vision for can't pronounce anything tonight. Operationalizing DFFT and its priorities highlighted 4 key issues. And let's bring these 4 key issues. Data localization. Again, guys, when you see this outline, that's why I'm bringing it to you guys. It spells out Jasmine from top to bottom. And if people are still not convinced that it does, then you know what? As the saying goes, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? Yeah, you can't. But you can, if anything, recognize the research that we've been bringing to you guys for many, many months now. Or if you've been following Quant, man, I mean, probably for over a year now. Data localization. Look at this for a second. DFFT should deliver tangible progress in undertaking the economic and societal, can't pronounce that either tonight. I can't pronounce anything tonight. I apologize. Impact of data localization measures, while taking into account varied approaches to data governance and legitimate public policy objectives. Another thing I like to point out, when we always reference, Mr. Genki Oda, everything that's mentioned here has Jasmine spelled all over it, like literally like a fat kid on cake. But public policy and those objectives, having a person, like I've always said before, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Genki Oda, JVCEA, he's a decision maker. He's part of that public policy objective. Getting to the next part. Regulatory cooperation, DFFT, should promote work to identify commonalities, pronounce it right this time, my goodness, and regulatory approaches to cross-border data transfers and data protection requirements, as well as facilitate cooperation on privacy-enhancing technologies. Now, before we get more into this, I saw some people from the recorded video saying, Max, should we start treating Jasmine like also, in the realm of like Ripple's XRP? And I don't know if I'm quite ready to go that area, but it seems as though that could be the case. For one, scalability. Number two, not just focusing on the concept of, data democratization, but we know with Jasmine that they're jumped into a whole new spectrum, right? Finance democracy. And they do reference, for instance, consistently this concept of cross-border payments. Yeah, it's stationed in Japan, but they're also looking to bring that more to a broader scale. Now, as far as them doing the amount of volume that like Ripple's XRP would do with banks and so on, that's a different story. However, check this out for a moment. How many times have we referenced Jasmine when it came to the local domestic banks of Japan? So it's not necessarily a case of just cross-border payments. Maybe they do a little bit of that because let's face it, what they're trying to accomplish with, you know, the metaverse and so on, to a sense, I mean, you can say that's cross-border, more like it's just, accessing the internet and whatnot. But my key thing is understanding that, local governments, right? It's not necessarily cross-border, but it's, if anything, it's incentivizing a lot of these local governments, local banks, right, to get involved with contributing towards, let's face it, society 5.0, right? And it works in so many different ways. We gave you guys some examples of not just what's going on with Jasmine, but other key players that have, like, for instance, stable coins and so on, and how it doesn't necessarily have to be a digital currency, but you could have a stable coin. Remember, we gave you that example in regards to the airline industry, right? So going more into this, I want to jump down to this. Trusted government access to data. Data free flow of trust should build awareness of the OECD Declaration of Government Access to Personal Data held by private sector entities. And this part is pretty big because some of those private sector entities are going to be heavily involved with who? The likes of who can bring, like, personal data in the form of these lockers and so on and protect it with management. Right. You know where I'm going with this. Among these private sector entities and other nations encouraged basically to sign up to its principles, the DFFT Secretariat should develop a shared understanding on the appropriate risk-based approaches for preventing any government to access to personal data that is inconsistent with democratic values and the rule of law, and is unconstrained, unreasonable, arbitrary, or disproportionate. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is this, okay? This has, for instance, blockchain spelled all over it, has DLT spelled all over it. And again, you go back to the root, like, source of, who in Japan is the biggest proponent of all of this. Again, you still have to go back to, hey, it's not rocket science. You go to Jasmine. Why is that? They were also the first to be regulatory compliant with the JVCEA, formerly known as the FSA. So they have more than laid down their stamp, if you will, or their stake in all this many, many years ago. And, you consistently building patents and innovating at the same time. Also on top of that, data sharing, right? So eventually, as you guys know, we're going to get to the point where we have that that basically decentralized data marketplace, okay? And how, we're disturbing an industry, like I've always said, that really needs to be disturbed, which is, the centralized entities, the Googles, the Amazons, you name it. It says COVID-19 and other global issues have demonstrated the value and need for like-minded partners to find consensus on approaches to data. And I want to point this out. Remember how I used all those analogies before about, like, like a Hollywood production? It's not one guy building towards or trying to make a movie, an actor or director, producer, and so on. That's why when you watch the credits at the end of a film, it literally mentions not just a grocery list, but, like, the grocery list, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Like, it's just a big, long resume of everybody who's involved with the film. Well, what about a big, long resume of everybody who's involved with this concept? The like-minded partners, right? That's what makes sense. And it says define consensus on approaches to data sharing. Consensus. Think about that for a second. Excuse me. But yeah, approaches to data sharing in priority sectors such as healthcare. Again, let's reference who? Let's reference the CARE project. Who's partnered up with the CARE project? Ripple. Who's also partnered up with the CARE project? Jasmine. Climate technology. Wonder how that's going to work out. Yeah, you know where we're going with that. Climate technology is a big, giant industry in itself, and you better believe it's a key proponent towards this concept of Society 5.0. Mobility. Look at everything that's mentioned here. Autonomous mobile lights. Look what Toyota is trying to accomplish. Look at who Jasmine is partnering with, not necessarily directly with Toyota, but their subsidiaries. A lot of times the fudders still want to mention that, oh, it's not a direct partnership. Okay. All right. Again, even here in the United States, we understand that sometimes you don't have to have direct partnerships. Like, you don't have to have a direct partnership with Chrysler, but if anything, you have that partnership with a subsidiary. The subsidiary is Mopar, right? Who hasn't used Mopar parts before, is not aware of it, especially in the United States. Going further into it, I love this part. The annex upheld the role of tech and its use cases thereof, such as digital credentials. Look what Jasmine is trying to accomplish with that. And identities. Again, this has Jasmine written all over it without saying Jasmine. Well, you know what, Max? I can't stand you. You always come up with this stuff and it doesn't say Jasmine. Okay. Well, at least go back to my record when it comes to quant then, if you want to be real finicky. And I did point out many cases where things were speculative and again end up being, oh, that was verified. Yeah, it's been crickets ever since for all those guys, right? And it's going to be crickets even that much more when it comes to this for Jasmine, because it's not rocket science. All you got to do is just do your own research. Hence why we have these shows, DYOR with Max, right? You do your own research, but we do it together, right? It also noted improved data use is a major strategic opportunity for economic growth. Again, guys, for all the people who are flooding Jasmine like all the time, are they not reading this? Major strategic opportunity for economic growth. What's the biggest one that contributes to all these concepts and has all these big connections? And you better believe that they do, because we confirm some of these things. But again, guys, it's not what you know, it's also who you know. Like I've always said, I hope to God they never piss off Genki Yoda, but if they did, I think they're still more than good, because if anything, it doesn't dismiss the what? It doesn't dismiss the utility. It says, in that context, the following are specific ideas to take DFFT from concept into action. And this is why I'm bringing it to you guys tonight, because the main reason why I want to bring it to you tonight is because this is a great thing to ask. Everybody wants to, hear all the good news, but it's like, what about the concepts? I mean, these are concepts. Is there any action? Finally, we're getting an example of where we take it to concept into action, kind of like what we talk about with Ripple's XRP and so on, or ISO 222, Stellar, all that, XTC, IOTA, all these ones that are part of it, HBAR, right? Full implementation. When does that happen? Well, this is not a Ripple segment. This is Jasmine. You can see where we're going with this. So let's just do that. Let's jump into this next part real quick. Put DFT on a firmer footing with an empowered secretariat. I love this. And if anything, hopefully you do appreciate yourself. Let me just double check a couple settings before I get more into this. So it goes into mention DFFT needs institutional support to move discussions from concept to action. Yes, thankfully, and look what's mentioned here, the United States and other G7 members recently endorsed the establishment of the institutional arrangement for partnership, IAP, within the OECD to bring governments and stakeholders together to operationalize DFFT through principles-based, solutions-oriented, evidence-based, multi-stakeholder, and cross-sectoral cooperation. If there's been anybody here who's been following my material for a few months now, remember I said that the United States copied DFFT, and I had some people, and by George, I'm not going to mention who they are because it doesn't matter, because I don't want to give recognition to them. But they said I was full of it on that one. They did. They said, you are just trying to make something out of nothing. I'll never forget some of these comments saying, how do you know, Max, that the United States copied that? And I said, I read it. And they're like, can you provide any links? I couldn't provide any direct links because if anything, it was just simply mentioned, right, in talks with who? Well, I don't know. Some of you guys watch C-SPAN. Some people think it's boring sometimes. But inside of those hearings and so on, they specifically were talking about some of these concepts. And I told you guys for a while now that the United States basically copied it, but they didn't call it DFFT. There is the proof. I don't make stuff up. I'm accused of making stuff up, but there is the proof. I did not make that up, right? So again, you guys, we've all been waiting for this whole concept of when are we going to have regulatory framework before we can get that clarity? Remember how many times I've been pounding this home to you guys about how DFFT is literally that regulatory framework to get toward the clarity? Hopefully now, since I did give you some actual proof on screen to show you this, and again, if people want the source, I'll drop it in the comments. And no, this is not coming from Larry in the comments. This is me. This is me dropping the comment. Okay, because I know the other day people were like, "Hey, Larry, how's it going?" That's not Larry. That's actually me. There's a source. Check it out for yourself. It comes from itif.org, and this is a recent publication. All right, getting more into this. Let me see how we're doing in regards to the likes real quick. We are currently at only 30 likes. We could get some more likes. So getting more into this, it says, for instance, G7 ministers were right in stating that a secretary is needed to operationalize DFFT. There are gaps in international governments to operationalize DFFT. Were you aware of that? And this, of course, is due to cross-sectoral nature, and there is a need for new mechanisms to bring governments and stakeholders together. New mechanisms. Have you understood for a while where we're going with that? I don't need to go more into detail about that. You guys are smart. You know where I'm going with that. The DFFT Secretariat should support targeted and pragmatic discussions between governments. Yes. The goal for Secretariat should be to support government action on foundational issues for global data governance. And you love how this is mentioned, because here's the thing. A lot of people just look at Jasmine as just being like, okay, that's for Japan. But we know that Jasmine's taken it to a whole new, broader perspective, right? We're looking to take this thing worldwide. Yeah, we're focusing a little bit now on what's going on here in the United States and so on. That's awesome, right? Because, last I checked, U.S. ranks third in population behind China, India, and, number 3. But the key thing is global data governance. If you can literally, we talk about Ripple's XRP being the chosen one for cross-border payments and even Stellar, right? But can you imagine how big it would be for Jasmine to be the chosen one when it came to global data governance? This is we talk about a big whopper. And this is why I will always talk about Jasmine, and some people say, oh, of course you're going to talk about Jasmine, that new thing about, being the ambassador. You probably get some tokens. Please. I think I've proven that I would have talked about Jasmine even if I wasn't getting paid. And that's a fact, right? I'm personally heavily invested into Jasmine. We'll talk about, whether that was the case or not. Look at this. Back to global data governance, which could then form the basis for broader discussions at the OECD and elsewhere. The Secretariat should bring in other stakeholders, for instance, industry, civil society, academia. Again, everything that's mentioned here is everything that's part of the Jasmine roadmap. I mean, come on, guys. Think about it. It says where needed, but should primarily be a forum for G7 governments to work together, as otherwise it runs the risk of turning into another unproductive talk shop. Nobody wants that, right? And if anything, you don't see that going on. Tara Kona is going everywhere. So that's not a case of unproductive talk shop. Now, back to G7. Members could designate working level government officials to guide the Secretariat on an ongoing basis to ensure progress and discussions are targeted to what's of interest to respective governments and doesn't just happen, it fits and spurts basically in the lead up to the ministerial meetings. In this way, the Secretariat would provide continuity and permanence for the data free flow with trust initiative and associated discussions, which otherwise wax and wane depending on G7 or even worse, G20 or the hosted country. Now, I'm going to get into all of these things here. All right. I mean, it's good stuff. Again, you're welcome to nerd it out. But one thing I do want to talk about is some of the other areas of the world. All right. So check this out for a brief moment. I know I said it want to make a super long deep dive on it. So I know it's kind of getting into that, but it's good stuff. Once up and running, the IAP should become a leading advocate and educator for the principles, best practices, and initiatives that demonstrate what DFFT. Here's an example. The IAP could work with third world countries to socialize the OECD's trusted access to government principles. The IAP could engage with African Union Secretariat and members, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is ASEAN, I guess is how you pronounce it, and other regional groupings to explore how these principles play out among their respective members. These respective regional organizations and their members are all at different stages with this issue, so targeted and tailored IEP engagement would lay the foundation for practices and policies that relate to their respective situations. Bottom line here is this. Even though it doesn't say this, you could apply this, for instance, to like what Stellar's doing, right? Accessing the unaccessed. But if you have a perfect case where you have a global standard, right, especially when it comes to data, then you can apply that to even what, like, you know, that principle of what Stellar's doing, but apply it to Jasmine and now enter it into a whole other continent. That is huge. All right. I like this about the case study real quick. I'm going to jump down to this for a second. This is another part you want to pay attention to. And I know this is a lot of material, but man, is it good material. Check this out. There have been several major developments since Data Free Flow with Trust basically launched all the way back in 2019. Listen to this. These include forthcoming European Union and even US-based data privacy framework. I've been talking about this for many months, and if you guys have been paying attention to it, you know where I'm going with this. And you have, if anything, have appreciated the content because you understand how big that opportunity is. And if anything, when we're looking at some of the recent pullbacks, right, in the market, it seems like everything's going to hell, and we're recognizing, hey, you know what, maybe accumulation phase got a little bit more extended. I still count it as blessings in disguise. Some people think I'm nuts, but you want to know something? It allows me to achieve my goals that I haven't been able to achieve. I achieved it with Jasmine, but there's other key proponents, right? So get more into this. The OECD Declaration on Government Access to what? Personal data held by private sector entities, and the Cloud Act. Think about this, the Cloud Act. So for another, again, if you're losing where I'm at on this, again, guys, look at this. Declaration on government access to what? Personal data held by who? Private sector entities. Why would I highlight this? Because if anything, when we pointed out the whole concept of a decentralized data marketplace, there you go. Because understanding this, you get the government involved in recognizing this. And some people say, well, I don't want the government involved. If the government's involved, that ruins the whole point of decentralization to a degree. I get where you're coming from. But if you're a Jasmine holder and they're the chosen one for that global data governance, are you going to be complaining too much as a holder? Not really, right? And the Cloud Act, again, Cloud Act, think about this for a second. Agreements between who? The United States. Again, some people say, oh, the United States is not part of this. They're not embracing any of this. Come on. Literally, have you not been following what's been going on with the House and Senate when it comes to these meetings? I've been paying attention to it. Some of you guys have been paying attention to it. Again, our news outlets don't necessarily report some of this. And you guys know that for yourself, right? You guys talk about, like some people say, hey, CNN's fake news, and there's this other one that's fake news, right? Look at the source here. This is a Japanese news publication, different side of the world. Why would a Japanese news publication give a crap about what's reported here in the United States? I mean, maybe they should, but you get where I'm going with that as well. So yes, Cloud Act agreement between the U.S., United Kingdom, and Australia. It also includes the Global CBPR initiative. Australia, Singapore, New Zealand, Chile, and others have also launched, listen to this, digital economy agreements that include regulatory operation and just that data flows, AI, digital trade, digital trade. Let's pause there for a moment. So we've been paying close attention to digital trade. We've been paying close attention to what's happening with how the UK literally laid down the framework, if you will, when it comes to digital worldwide trade through the electronics trade documents. What bill that became an act written into law by who? Right? Yeah, the king of the UK. Right? You know, my dad used to joke around and make fun of his ears, but anyway. But my point is that it will literally go into effect September 20th. Now, that's the UK. What about Japan? Yeah, you better believe Japan laid down the framework for global data governance. You don't think that's a big deal? We talk about, data is the new oil, right? It's the new oil. Remember way back in the days, maybe your grandparents used to talk about this stuff. Who are the guys who literally ruled the world when it came to being the elites, of the early 1900s? Talk about remember Standard Oil? Remember your grandparents, or depending on how old you are, maybe it was your dad, right? Always talk about Standard Oil and how they monopolized everything. But look at what's mentioned here. Could you very well see that we're going into this different shift, a different direction, right? If this is the new oil, we're decentralizing that oil, right? Not making it so there's a monopoly of like Standard Oil, if you will, when it comes to all this. Because technically speaking, if you want to get really, really technical, right? Google, Facebook, now known as Meta, Amazon, those are the Standard Oils of the centralized world of data. Besides these major initiatives, the stock take could investigate smaller scale case studies and pilot projects, countries which have used that, who are also at underlying issues related to the concept of DFFT, such as regulatory cooperation, data exchanges, joint enforcement, investigations, and cross-border research data models. Some potential related ideas, of course, and so on. There's a map in regards to the trusted access. I'm not going to get into that. I mean, it's good stuff, but I mean, you guys will be here for hours. Don't want to get into all that. But what I was going to state is this part about China is basically, you do want to pay attention to this because we know that China is part of the BRICS countries. So before we wrap up this Jasmine segment, it says map how China and other countries contravene DFFT, OECD principles for privacy, respecting data flows, and governance. Now, some people are going to say, well, I know how it's going to go. They're going to do 15-minute cities, right? Hear us out on this. So it says the balance in former Japanese Prime Minister Abe's DFFT is a duality. The data flows where they are basically trusted. There is clearly no trust about data flows, obviously, to China. Yeah, no kidding. Policymakers admit behind closed doors that data free flow with trust now is largely defined not by what it is for, but what it is against. For instance, China. Putting this mapping idea on the agenda would finally be saying the quiet part out loud, and in doing so, provide much needed reference material to help firms and regulators understand the risk from excessive and arbitrary government access to data in China and other problematic countries. Right. Think about this. It's not rocket science, guys. If DFFT literally stands for data free flow with what? Trust. How could you trust China to work with that in the same type of, global governance laws and so on? It's not happening. So what would be maybe one area where that would possibly work? Well, basically Hong Kong. And for some people are saying, well, isn't Hong Kong part of mainland China? Well, yeah, it is. But you also got to understand that you still kind of operate, not with full, full control yet, right? You got to keep in mind this is an area that used to be under, the British Empire, the British monarchy, all the way up to 1998. Russia is also mentioned here. The IAP basically should map how countries such as China and even Russia exemplify the counterpoint in terms of how countries actively undermine the principles that make up both DFFT and the OECD trusted government access to data initiatives. Right. Again, I don't see them being trusted. I don't think anybody would really see them trusted. They give an example for this, right? And that basically is that there remains a lack of both transparency and details about how exactly China exercised to broad legal discretion in laws that provide the government to access data. This research should help plug this major gap. For example, this could include research into China's government access to data both domestically and extraterritorially. China's cybersecurity law, personal information protection law, and data security law provide the legal foundation of data governance in China, but also still allow for broad discretion by the state. All right. In closing, there is so much that's mentioned here, but that was the key takeaway that I wanted to bring to you guys. Of course, there's this figure about, there's, all these different areas of where this is going to apply to. But you're welcome to nerd it out if you choose to do so. To be honest, I don't know if anybody really would, but if you are that type of person, awesome. Check it out for yourself. There's a lot that's mentioned here, and it does mention numerous times in regards to the United States' position when it comes to DFFT. But if anything, what they're going to bring into the whole mix, it's not going to be called DFFT here when it gets actually written into our own framework, if you will. Last I checked, it was called something else. Can't remember exactly what that was, but we did bring it to you guys on the show about a week or two ago. Anyway, in closing, let me know what you guys think in regards to all this. I personally think it's a big deal, and it's a recent update in regards to DFFT. If you hold Jasmine and you understand the bigger picture of things, there's great opportunities because of the prices of where we're currently at. There'll be a time and day that will come sooner than you think, right? And that is, we'll look back and say to ourselves, man, oh man, I wish I would have loaded up on, for instance, Jasmine, because you know what? They did have some big connections. They end up being like, for instance, the chosen one when it came to some of these big things that were mentioned all the way back in August of 2023 with that guy who wears that funky hat. But whatever the case be, not financial advice. Do more of your own research and draw your own conclusion. This is part of our lock and load segment. And for me personally, I'm looking to add more to my Jasmine position. Even though I hit my goals, I can't deny that, the recent prices, I look at it as a blessing in disguise, basically. Some people who aren't in the know, they're going to flood it. They're not going to understand it. They won't even bother to do the proper research. The research that we showed you here speaks for itself. How do you tie it into everything? Pretty simple. If you take the moment or time to look more into some of these key things. So that concludes our Jasmine coverage for tonight. We will get into some other topics here in a bit. I'm way behind in the comments. I do appreciate you guys, whoever's here tonight. All right. Let's get back into it. And I'm going to double check the other screen, see how we're doing. Let me refresh my other screen. All right. Looks like I didn't miss anything too much. Kind of a funky day with the attendance, but it's okay. Please smash that like. We're currently at 36 likes. It's funny, because I mentioned COVID a few times already on the other screen. If you refresh the page on the live stream, it will say COVID-19 vaccine, get the latest information from the CDC. We were literally talking about privacy. Google is literally recording everything I say, and they're using that data to inform you guys about the COVID-19 vaccine. Anyway, teach his own. All right. So let's go into the comments. We have some more people that came in. Mr. Lambo's Crypto Talk says Stone Cold Steve Austin is the GOAT. The GOAT. Excuse me. Here's some wrestling trivia. Could you tell me, I already know the answer to this, what Stone Cold Steve Austin's name was before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin? Do you know that? And if anything, he looked dramatically different from when he was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Anyway, what will you win? Well, as Boomer F and Cerner would say, you'll win absolutely nothing. All right. Yes, it is. It is. Give me just a second. Okay. The Rock's a close second. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's see here. Boomer F and Sooner says, I think everyone in Shawnee was there. I missed that conversation. I'm sorry. All right, let's welcome Salamander. Glad to have you here, Salamander. Boom. Appreciate you, man. How's things going with Mr. Sal? All right. Let's try to adjust this chair a little bit. Cash Cats says Maximus Fire. Thank you for being here, Mr. Cash Cats. Always appreciate seeing you, Cash. Really, I mean that, man. Thank you. All right. Let's also, did I welcome April Cornwell? Welcome, April. She always says, hey, hey, hey. Hump Not Dump. My biggest right now is XLM and Algorand, but is like people forget it's an ISO as well. Yeah, I think that was pointed out a while back. Yeah. All right. I'm trying to see if you guys got any specific questions or comments. I'll read this from Corey Bebe because he's talking about. So that isn't a typo. XPR Proton's price is 0.00078. They have around 20 billion in circulation, 28 billion in total supply. You need to do some more digging. Token Topics had a solid vid on it. All right. All right. Let's see. Any specific questions? Thank you so much, Tim, for promoting my Twitter. And speaking of my Twitter, okay, I reached my milestone. I did. Would you like to see? Here it is. And then we'll get into some coverage here in a minute. I finally reached my milestone of 2,000 followers. And, you know, I wasn't able to do it without you guys. So thank you so much. All right. I'm trying to obviously get up to over 10,000 because it'd be pretty awesome. Because literally it's double of what, you know, YouTube is. But yeah, be pretty cool. So there you go. All right. Let's go further down. What other ones we have? We have Henry Brown with a $2 super chat. My God, I missed it. You always miss it, Max, because you're in your spiel. Yeah, I know, my friend. I know. Peace, everyone. Yo, man, Max. Thank you, Henry Brown. Appreciate that, man. $2 super chat. All right. Thank you so much. And let's see here. Henry is here. The party can start. That's a good way of looking at it. Brian Dowie, member for 4 months. Congratulations, Brian. Hope you're feeling better, Henry Brown. Yes, Henry, yes. That's a good point. Are you feeling better, Henry? How's that recuperation thing going? You know? Hopefully it's going well. All right. Like I said, not every day that Humpty's here, so we will read his comment. He says, regulations kept him from owning XRP, but during COVID, its system was used in New York City. As a form of payment on the dollar, was declared illegal to use 4 months. No one used hard currency money in New York City. All right. Mr. Lambo's Crypto Talk says, congrats, Brian. 4 months of members, countless months of Caroline jokes. Lol. That's a good point. All right, Henry Brown, $5 super chat. Shout out to Tim Dog, Boomer effing Crip. What? And OG Brian Dowie from Watts and to the test. Oh, okay. Of the Death Road Record family. Oh, yeah. Are you guys stranded on Death Row? Gotta watch out for Suge, right? Anyway. And you don't have to watch out for Suge. He's going to be doing time for a long time. He'll probably die in prison for crying out loud. All right. Hump Not Dump. Today's Apple's Pay or wireless pay is used 90% of the time. in any transaction in New York City. All right. But yeah, thank you, Mr. Henry Brown, for your super chats. What else we got up in here? Tenerity, if I pronounce that, or Tenerity. So what's going on, you guys? What's going on is we're going to cover some things, obviously, other than just Jasmine. We're going to get into it here in a bit. It's going to read just a couple more comments, and then we'll go from there. I want to welcome Michael Montclair. He says, hey, everyone. It's official. I have... Oh, you have the C word. Oh, my God. I'm sorry, man. Any tips from... I'm miserable, can't sleep. Oh, man. Man, I've never had it before. My friend who had it a couple times, he says you need to drink like the living hell out of tons of water. You need to basically, what was he mentioned? It helps if you can do ginger and garlic. If you do end up cooking anything, a lot of that, which sounds gross, but it doesn't sound gross. I mean, I like a little balance, but he's like, you really got to up it with the ginger, the garlic, a little bit of the ginger though. Then I also did hear about, I think Mr. Lambos is right. He said that, he did take some, he took Dayquil, he also took NyQuil. Oh, you said NyQuil. Okay. Yeah. I can't give you the best advice on that, man, because I never had it, but who knows? I'll probably eventually get it. Anyway, not looking forward to that. Tenerity. Get some chicken liver into your diet. Don't taste the best, but very, very healthy. Oh, interesting. I'm not a big fan on... liver is just... not necessarily chicken liver, but like... like you could go to a diner and you could order like liver and onions. That gives me like instant like, ugh. Like boiled oysters, instant gag reflex. Liver and onions, ugh. I like onions, but I don't like liver. Black licorice is another thing that will just make me instantly look, those three things basically. I don't know of anything else really. I can't tolerate just instant, ugh, sorry to gross some of you guys out. Anyway. All right, let's get back into our outline because we need to do so. Let me see. 2,000 followers. Congrats, Max. Thanks, Kesh. Yeah, that's just on Twitter. All right. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into what? We're going to jump into some Nexera. Unbelievable. Finally, Max is talking about Nexera. It's been tagged for the longest time, but he hasn't been talking about it. Yeah, smash that like for some Alliance blocks, Nexera. All right. Let's pull this up. Here's the recent report straight from an Alliance block, and this is good stuff. I think this is pretty cool. So it goes on to mention some of these key things. An optimal trading experience means fast networks and deep liquidity stores. The Nexera exchange supports this by doing what? Leveraging arbitrums, fast and cheap transactions, and even Uniswap v3. Now, I just want to state this, all right? We have talked about Uniswap v4, and I'm just being honest. V4 is going to be an absolute game changer. So again, as you guys saw, the topic of the show is lock and load. You might want to consider picking up some Uniswap, especially at some of these prices, because for the future, that is an absolute game changer. Remember how we mentioned some of the the changes in gas fees, right? Didn't they mention something like 95 or 99%? Crazy. Going to be absolutely revamped on that V4. Anyway, this is a Nexera segment. So DeFi's largest liquidity provider, right, is obviously Uniswap. So a little more. Let's do that. So I'm not going to bore you with all of it, but what I do want to show you is some of these highlights. Let's jump into the next page because they do have some highlights. And if you hold the Alliance block, you do want to pay attention to what is happening because we haven't talked about it in a while. So introduction of the Nexera exchange. Nexera exchange. What the heck? Really, Max? Yeah. Alliance block unveils Nexera exchange, a decentralized exchange with an advanced on-chain limit order book protocol. Does that not sound bullish? Integration with Uniswap and Arbitrum. Nexera is starting with integration into Uniswap protocol to leverage, like we mentioned. It will function on Arbitrum's mainnet, which provides faster and cheaper transactions. But let's face it, like I said before, Uniswap V4, you know what we're talking about V3. V4 is where it's at, man. That's gonna be absolutely game changing. You're gonna see shows in the future that literally they're gonna be talking about it a lot. I'm just gonna predict the future right here. Ready? All right, don't re-predict it a lot. Shout out to 2-Bit. At some point in the future, when Uniswap V4 drops, he's gonna be talking the living hell out of it on his show. I can almost guarantee it. Shout out to Mr. 2-Bit. All right. Upcoming and innovative features in trading. Introducing staking enabled on chain order books, order triggering matching, yield optimized staked orders, and dynamic range order book provision. These features empower traders with enhanced control, efficiency, and capital utilization strategies. What's the bottom line here? Literally everything that's the opposite of what? FTX, Miss Caroline. Oh my God, Max actually referenced Caroline, but did in a serious way. Yeah, I did. You know, you guys always joke around about Caroline, but in reality, remember some of the quotes that she made in regards to like, we don't need no stop orders or anything like that. Like who really uses that joking around? And then literally like, are you kidding me? Look how that worked out. So yeah, Nexera, literally opposite of FTX. It should be, right? Upcoming incentivization, with Nexera token. I like this because if anything, for some people, I'm going to be honest, some people just don't really understand the full utility of Nexera, the token. So this is great because if anything, this gives you a broader idea or gives you a little bit of education of like, hey, you know what? This is kind of like another utility layer, if you will, when it comes to the Nexera token. And, at the end of the day, last I checked, we're all about these utility-based tokens. So let's get into some of that utility for a brief moment. The Nexera token plays a critical role in the Nexera exchange, incentivizing traders to actively participate. Traders can earn a percentage of trading fees with an additional stability staking pool for continuous rewards based on traders' reputation. All right, there's advancement to tokenized asset trading. I mean, some of that stuff is good because obviously, especially with what happened with KuCoin, I mean, that used to be like a good place for like, oh, they're not going to KYC the hell out of you, and look how that worked out. All right, so they give all these thanks and good stuff. It talks about some of these other key things. I think there's a little bit more I wanted to get into. Hold on a second. Oh, this is good because it points out some of the obvious, but it's worth mentioning. Check this out. Decentralized exchanges in their current state offer vast potential, but face challenges in user experience and operational fluidity when compared to their centralized counterparts. The Nexera exchange seeks to bridge this gap, providing users with an experience reminiscent of centralized exchanges, while retaining the decentralized ethos. Especially with the advent of tokenized assets, it's essential for exchanges to offer a platform where these assets can be traded with the same ease of traditional digital tokens. Let's take a moment to point some things out of why you want to pay attention to this. So I'm going to pull up CoinMarketCap, and yes, I will reference Uniswap. Why am I going to do this? Because if anything, again, the name of the show is called Lock and Load. So here is Uniswap. And the reason why I want to point this out is because I want to give some of the newcomers that perspective of understanding when we get into a bull market, why you hold some of these particular digital assets. Now, this is a good example, okay? Because Alliance Block is breaking into the exchange, obviously making their own exchange. And that is a big deal. Here's a great example of why that's a big deal. With mass adoption, and we will get mass adoption, they are creating a very unique platform, especially when it comes to that, fiat to crypto on-ramps, if you will, right? So, or the bridge, I should say, not necessarily the on-ramp. Here is Uniswap. On the stats, this is the all-time, right? But on these stats, and this is a new area of CMC you can just scroll down to. So The all-time lows for Uniswap was back on September 16th, 2020, 3 years ago. Since then, that was a 1,007% gain for some people that took advantage of that. Look at the all-time high. We're 89% down from that all-time high. But when was that all-time high? Well, that was during, for instance, the last bull market. And we do know many projects back in May of 2021 did very, very well for like first all-time highs. Then they had second all-time highs. Perfect example, obviously, Shiba Inu, but that's not an exchange. We're talking specifically about exchanges. So Uniswap, decentralized exchange, $45 on that platform. Why was it so much? Keep in mind this. You saw, for instance, a big influx of all sorts of projects trying to copy what Shiba Inu did, right? You saw not necessarily like the birth of Saitama, and I hate referencing Saitama, but I believe Saitama came like in June. There's other ones that came out of this whole thing of May. And again, they had to have a platform to go to. You have ETH. You need to go to, for instance, like a Uniswap. You need to be able to do just that. Pay in ETH and, swap it for the asset you're looking to obtain, some kind of puppy dog Inu. That created a tremendous amount of supply and demand for the exchange token of Uniswap. Now, Max, you're talking a lot about Uniswap. Can you come back to Nexera? Right. My key thing is this. I'm not going to talk about necessarily Uniswap all day and say, oh, this is what happened in the past, but it's a good reference. Understand where Nexera is going. That's the bottom line. These entry points for instance, like Nexera, right? And we'll pull up that on the watch list. Where are we at on Nexera? So on Nexera, currently speaking, it's 0.06. You have a ranking of 379. You also have, for instance, let's go over here. Was it market cap of 42,567,000? So my thing is this is a sleeping giant for many, many reasons. Okay. And basically speaking, the way I look at it is once more people get in tune of their platform, how cheap it is going to be, to do all the basic things that people were accustomed to in the past with the likes of Uniswap and so on. And they even partnered up with Uniswap, right? They didn't even got the Arbitrum going on. So again, getting into a full-fledged bull market is, Alliance Blocks Nexera really going to sit at 0.0605? I don't think so, right? This is big, big news when it comes to Nexera. Again, I don't need to keep preaching about it. If anything, you can, do more of your own research, and you probably have. I do feel as though it's a big deal, and that's why we'll continue to cover the likes of Nexera. That was a big update. Glad to bring it to you guys. All right, please smash the like if you haven't done so already. The next part of what we have that's on the agenda tonight is going to be, let's see, LCX, the Liechtenstein Exchange. Yes, shout out to Magic Power. All right, going to get more into what we have. We're at 43 likes. We have 40 people here. Not bad. Not bad. I'll take it. Okay, so gonna go further down. Let's see here. Everybody's wishing everybody to get well. Crypto info. Do your own research. Deep dive. Welcome, crypto info. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. Again, that's not him. I know you're just joking around. That's not him. That was me dropping a link. I'm not pissed. That's funny. He always busts my chops. That's okay. I'd rather you have fun and bust my chops than you not to have fun and not say anything. So anyway, Corey Bebat, even got Cash Cats up in that. What the heck? All right. Corey B. says, Max, you are right. I don't understand why Stellar Silver Bond doesn't get more coverage. Right. I think the only guy I've seen talk about it a little bit is Rich. And on crypto Twitter, who is it? Alp. 2 people. Unless I'm missing something, 2 people. And then us. I guess I am missing something. I'm sure there's more. There's probably some guys out there to talk about. I'm just talking about like some of like the bigger, content creators. That's a huge deal. That's a really, really big deal. I mean, we talk about price shock. There is no way that Stellar is going to be at the prices of what we see now at the height of the next bull market. There's just no way. They got so much going on for it. Total game changer, a major competitor to EVM. Yeah, I'm glad you've done your own research, Corey. That's awesome. Hum Not Dump. Today we are in the middle of mass adoption across the web, which will take us to a new way to interact with anyone. Retro Brown Beats. This is Henry Brown. Other channel. Oh, okay. Retro Brown Beats. Well, nice, man. Very, very nice. Where's Borat was saying? Very nice. Yishamish. Trump just tweeted. Wow, that must have been the first time in a long time. Huh. Yeah, what did he say? All right, let's see. Cash Cats. Mojazmi taking it to the world. Yes, absolutely. Trump said, F that winch in Georgia. Oh my God, really? Huh. And we'll see about that. We'll have to see what happens. Anything might be closer than you think. You remember what happened last time? Everybody thought that he was going to win last time, and look what happened. I'm not trying to spoil anybody. All right, that means crypto boom and the economy is coming back soon. I gotta admit, I mean, get credit where credit's due. Better times back then, but again, I don't want to make it political. All right, let's go further down. Mr. G Crypto, welcome back. Please, can you make a video on Caspa? It's revolutionary. I'll see what I can do, my friend. My time has been a lot more limited. I don't know if you guys noticed this. So, I don't know. I don't know how hardcore some of you guys are when it comes to, paying attention to Max's content. So usually what I try to do is I do these segments to someone, then I chop it up and then put it out. So what I used to be able to do when I have more time was I do like a proper recorded video, and you can kind of see the background's a little bit different and so on. But yeah, maybe we should just make Caspa part of the normal lineup, and then that allows me to have a little more time. We'll see how that works out, my friend. I said I want to start covering it, but I also don't want to overpromise on that. I'm gonna be real. It might be a situation where I might just let that one go. I hate to say that, just because of time constraints and stuff like that. Mainly because the way I look at it is, like, even back in the day, like Luna Classic, right? There's other people covering Luna Classic, right? Obviously, Too Big kills it with the coverage with Luna Classic. So the way I look at it is, I don't really need to be covering Luna Classic, But I do recognize the opportunity with Caspa, and I've gotten a lot of requests to do it. My thing is, I don't know if I could bring that, what is to be expected from that. I just don't want to. I don't want to give unfulfilled promises. If you get what I'm saying. But it's very much a possibility. I don't want to guarantee it. I am looking to personally, how should I say this? I'm looking to get into Caspa personally, right? Because that's one of the ones that I feel like I still need to get, like ICP, Caspa, and maybe a couple others. But as far as covering it regularly, I'm still kind of up in the air on that. I need to be reserved on that because, for one, I want to bring that level of enthusiasm, but I also want to be able to bring my own unique way of, like, here's the research and stuff. I don't want to, how should I say this? Like, I don't want to come across as a guy who's just sharing the exact same thing that you tuned in with, somebody else, right? I want to give you a sense of value of all the material. And I think I've been consistent with that with everything I cover here, obviously, and bringing to you guys. So if it ever gets to the point where I say to myself, okay, this is literally the same as, what was reported earlier, what kind of value are they getting from that? Then I'm not going to do it. You guys get where I'm coming from? Like, we talk about the internet of value, right? No pun intended. I got to be able to give you guys that value with proper research for CASPA. But as far as believing in it, hey, man, I'm 100% convinced on it. And I do believe it, yes, revolutionary, absolutely. Incurable Optimist, what up? Better late than never. It's all good. Welcome, Incurable Optimist. All right. Humpty, bro, I've been sitting on Kava thinking it was CASPA. Need to get my old man crypto glasses. Where is my CASPA? No, it's fine. My buddy is into Kava. He's the one that hooked me up with this microphone. That's a wind guard, by the way. I won't have it on during the winter months, obviously, but all right. It's going to be a couple more comments, and then we're going to go from there. 11,000 XLM make you a whale? I don't know, man. Might make you a shark. Might make you a... I don't know about a whale, though. Nah, I'm going to say no on that one. Probably maybe a killer whale. Could we go killer whale? Maybe a dolphin? I don't know. All right. Let's see here. T. Wildman, bro. Welcome, T. Wildman. All right. I'm going to read like maybe a couple more comments, and that's about it. Any thoughts on DAG? Okay. We talked about what ones I don't have that I need to have. I need DAG. I need ICP. I need CASPA. There's a few other ones. That's my thoughts. I got more thoughts than that, Anyway. Watch out for Sugar O'Malley. All right. This will be the last one, and we'll get into it. Let's see here. Where do we have one? I guess we'll just leave it at that. Nixera with the fist bump from Tim Shea. All right. Please smash that like. Give me just a moment. All right. Let's get into the next part of our coverage. I'm going to double check the other screen and make sure I didn't miss something. Yeah. What the heck? Mudbutt. What the heck is you guys talking about? Mudbutt again? My God. Every time you talk about Mudbutt, Rayan's ears ring. Okay? That's not fair to Rayan. You should care about somebody other than your own laughter and realize that this guy has to keep going to the doctor. All right, enough about that. Let's jump into the LCXZ Liechtenstein exchange. Mr. Magic Power, you still here? We finally have some Liechtenstein exchange news for you guys. Let's go ahead and share it. Here we go. LCX. Check this out because we're talking about ICP earlier, not Insane Clown Posse. Yes, I'm a 90s, 80s and 90s hip hop lover, but I was never a fan of the Insane Clown Posse. All right, I'm just going to throw that out there. The Juggalos were not my thing. All right, LCX. Check this out. It says the internet computer is created by ICP, the most advanced network protocol ever devised. I mean, that's a pretty bullish statement for them to say that, right? So they have this thread. It's a good thread. I already reviewed it, but they go on to mention that ICP enables people to build Web3 services and enterprise systems directly on a public decentralized network, which scales even to hosting social networks. Let me make sure this is muted. Let's play this. I'm going to play this for just a moment. ICP. Hold on a second. Gosh, why does it keep doing that? ICP is listed on LCX now on their exchange. And yeah, it's just a little brief video they have. But going more into it, They talk about, for instance, tamper-proof. Canister software is tamper-proof, does not need to be protected by a firewall, cannot be infected with ransomware because the internet computer is created by advanced math. There are no backdoors. A lot of you guys who've done your own research about ICP, you already know about this, but what about some other newcomers, right? Let's respect some of them, right? So autonomous canisters can be made unmodifiable, creating permanent logic on the network, or placed under the control of autonomous governments, empowering communities to run Web3, or securing an enterprise. It's simple. The global spend on IT personnel is now 1.8 trillion. I mean, that's a lot if you think about it. And, you know, I've had friends in IT. I've been in IT myself, right? But I never was able to charge some of the ridiculous prices. I think the most I've ever charged was like, I don't know. It was like maybe $30. And it took like an hour. And some guys charged like, I don't know, man, like maybe $100 or something like that. Some crazy stuff. It's like, you're not a freaking doctor, but teach his own. I mean, no disrespect to some of you guys who are, charging that much. I'm just saying. But yeah, canister software greatly simplifies the development and maintenance of online systems and servicing, driving cost savings and making you faster to market. They have next-gen AI. The internet computer is currently adding support for Web3 AI compute units. AI will run on the network, supporting native Web3 integrations and trustlessness combinations of models and data. All right, bottom line is this. ICP token is basically on the Liechtenstein exchange. They do have a couple pairings. They have ICP with the EUR, and they also have ICP with LCX. So it's available on there. That's pretty cool, right? Not too bad. And, I like how LCX did a little, brief thread on the use case for ICP. I own LCX, but of course I'm looking to get into ICP. And in the past, I have promised to do a proper deep dive. I did do an intro in regards to ICP. In the past, I think somebody DM'd me some bullish news that was an old interview from, I don't know if it was that old, but, somewhat old now in regards to a Vitalik Buterin video or interview about how he references and talks about ICP. I have reviewed that. It was really interesting, and I thought, well, I'll bring it to you guys at some point. Again, some time constraints as of lately, especially with taking care of my dad, but ICP is a must-own for myself. I'll be more than glad that I own it, especially going into the bull market. And I'm also going to be more than glad that I own, obviously, some Liechtenstein LCX. So that's the news in regards to LCX. It was just real brief. That's the way it is sometimes, right? You don't get exactly news all the time on some of these particular ones, but glad to bring it to you guys. Going to jump into the next part of our coverage here in a brief moment after we get more into some more comments. The next part of our coverage, if you're wondering about it, I'm sure you're wondering about it, is going to be Hedera HBAR, and we have quite a bit in regards to HBAR. It's going to be a few brief comments because I don't want to turn this into a 3-hour show like last night or however long it was. But going to read a few more. All right. And let's see. We got OG Crypto. Welcome. Michael, not health advice, but it kicked its butt with a small amount of tea tree oil, orally, and peppermint oil on those to breathe better. Huh. 3 days for you, it was gone? Interesting. Humpty's got an update in regards to his Oreos and his crab legs. They don't mix well. Ugh. Sounds kind of funky. Hi, Max has sent your feed to Twitter. Thanks, man. Appreciate the support, OG Crypto. It's the gangster. I don't know. I listened to some Daz Dillinger on the way home the other day, and it made me think of you, believe it or not. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Daz Dillinger. And it was had a Corrupt on, of course, feature. When is Corrupt not featured with Daz? I mean, let's just be honest. Okay. We're going to kick it back to our coverage. kind of like a little bit of in and out, as you guys would say. Oh, but Caroline, bro. No, not like that. But if anything, let's jump into the H bar segment. Smash that like for some H bar. Let's see how we're doing on the likes. We're currently at 44 likes. We have 42 people watching, so that's not too shabby. I guess we'll take it. So here's some recent news in regards to H bar, and if anything, we have quite the H bar coverage for you guys tonight. Happy to report from the H bar bull. Give him a follow. I will give him a follow. Happy to report that Drop CC, which is a micropayment service for small value transactions, has integrated multi-chain USDC payments. Now, yesterday's show, did we not mention how you're now seeing other blockchain solutions? I mean, Hedera is not blockchain, right? Get the point. But other DLT solutions, projects, and so on, or products at this point, hopping on Circle's USDC. What was a perfect example? Remember what we reported yesterday in regards to XDC? Right. Hopefully you tuned in yesterday. But this is Hedera. So Hedera now with it. You see the trend with this? Now, why wouldn't that be? Again, you showing you the material. We're not going to jump into that. But we're going to jump into this news that we have here. This will allow merchants more flexibility to accept USDC. That's the bottom line. Like I've always pointed out, pairings create volume. Volume creates adoption. Back to Jasmine for just a brief moment, and that is this. Watch out for when we finally get the unbanning of foreign stablecoins, Tether, and especially USDC. And if anything, I think USDC will probably be first before Tether. So it says this will allow merchants, yes, that more of that flexibility to accept USDC, give the holders of ETH, Avalanche, and even Polygon-matic USDC access to Drop's micropayments platform and boost Hedera's USDC liquidity. Catch the full interview. We're not going to watch the full interview. We're going to watch the highlights. So this is cool. This is a little over 2 minutes, a little bit of that visual. I know some of you guys like some of the visuals and little, things that we do here at CTN other than just me talking, all right? Smash that like. Let's get into this. Why is this a big deal? Here we go.
Can you describe the new capabilities that Drop is bringing to market?
Sure. So basically what we have done, Drop enables payments in fiat, which is US dollars, and in digital currencies, right? And when it comes to digital currencies, we have always had HBAR as one of the currency by which you can make payments. And then we had a stable currency from Circle, USDC. What we have done in this new upgrade that's coming out is we've expanded the USDC possibilities, the options. So whether you have USDC on Hedera, whether you have USDC on Ethereum, if you have USDC in Avalanche or Polygon, you should be able to make payments to the merchant. Drop is on Hedera platform. The entire infrastructure is built on Hedera. So we've given you the options to the consumer so they can make a payment from wherever they are, whichever blockchain they're using. For now, for this upgrade, we have, of course, we always had Hedera. Now we have Ethereum, Avalanche, and Polygon as the first upgrade that we're going to come out. So it's a multi-blockchain. That's the best way I can describe. No matter which chain you're using, as long as you have the token USDC, you should be able to make a payment. But the real purpose is to make payments on Drop. So we've expanded, we've given more liquidity. That's what we've done.
So it's critical to tap into those liquidity pools of those other networks. So whenever somebody makes a payment using, we'll say USDC on Ethereum, that is going to end up as USDC on the Hedera network?
Yeah. So the way it would work is you have to be registered with Drop. You need to be a Drop customer, right? And that's why you're making a payment through Drop. So the way it would work is, let's say I have an Exodus or some wallet which has USDC Ethereum, the USDC token in Ethereum, and you want to make a transfer, you want to make a payment on Drop wallet, and you're a Drop customer. We give you a transfer method by which we give you an address in Ethereum where you make a transfer, and that get automatically converted into a Hedera USDC token, right? and that token shows up in your drop wallet.
All right. Obviously, there's more to the interview, but you get the gist, right? That sounds pretty cool. So, if you want to see the full interview in regards to that, I can drop that to you guys. It's basically going to be actually, sorry, they don't have it available. You can watch it tomorrow, it says. All right, get more into this. Excuse me. Let's pull up the next part of what we have because there's something else I want to report to you guys. All right, excuse me. Sorry about that. Let's pull some of this back up. So there is this right here. I'll come back in the frame in a moment. All right. And it's called Tymlez or Tymlez, Tymlez. They're excited to announce Carbon Central. Now, before we get more into this, I wonder who they are. You're not familiar with them. They are an enterprise-grade software solutions provider leveraging the power of blockchain tech to deliver innovative sustainability solutions. They have announced Carbon Central, and it's a new project in regards to carbon management tool, which enables companies to centrally manage their carbon offsetting and guarantee of origin projects. Excuse me, man. So I'm going to show you some of this right here, and if anything, I'm going to blow it up. Give me a second. Make it even bigger because it's going to be kind of tiny if you're on your couch or something. All right. So here's a little overview of what this looks like. And, you know, for instance, like you got this solar farm right here for renewable energy generation. Gives you like, you know, a gist of that generation capacity, 6.5 MW. You know, even tags like some of the industries, I guess you could say, water conservation, air quality improvement, gives the locations, coordinates, like all sorts of stuff. Gives you, you know, like all this detailed report basically. So it just kind of gives you an idea of like what that looks like. Jumping back to what we have. Let me just get back to there. Here it is. So this was reported. Was it yesterday? My bad. Yesterday. So it goes on to mention Carbon Central is currently live. And basically they are testing and they are scheduled to be available in late 2023. Again, you know, we've talked about like, watch out for the late 2023 when it comes to, for instance, like dApps. Well, what about carbon credits? You know, these concepts may not seem like, I don't know, it seems kind of odd. You know, I remember when I first heard about carbon credits, I was just like, I didn't know if I was to take it serious. Well, how about this? Did we take CBDC serious back in the day? Did we take a lot of these things that were, sorry to say, mentioned by the World Economic Forum very seriously? You know, my best friend, Mike Wool, literally talked about all this stuff over 20 years ago, right? I think it was literally like maybe, you know, early 2000s. And I used to think it was just absolutely like bat-ish crazy, you know? But a lot of these things came true. I basically owed him apologies. Like, wow, man, you really call that. So you can learn more about this if you choose to do so. And we're going to obviously give you some of the quick gist of what this is about. So I'm going to take you to this. And like it says, it's a carbon management, managing project carbon reporting and analytics and tokenization platform for, you know, I guess you could say like a tool website to kind of help you get it all together. When we go to the site, this pulls up. Let me just double check that you guys can see it. You can. And again, guys, this is the recent Hedera news. So check this out. Centrally managing project carbon reporting, analytics, and tokenization. You have, like we talked about earlier, project management, but it does state digital twins. And this is something that's been reported a lot recently, right? Even on some other content creator YouTube channels. Create a digital twin of your operations to calculate carbon emissions during the operation design process. Bottom line is this: you're going to see this a lot. You see it, especially when it comes to Jasmine, right? If you've been paying attention to that, I think it's with Scheme, working with WITS and so on. They have that going on. But this is Hedera, right? Carbon tokenization, automatically calculate and generate carbon credits for your organization's projects. You got to keep in mind, I mean, in the future, there's going to be a lot of the concepts of, carbon offsets or, carbon credits. My dream of being able to own a few classic cars, some old school Impalas and so on. I'm going to obviously, eventually own like an old school Mercury, and I'm going to probably pick up a 48 Ford convertible in the future and so on. But my point is, I realize that by the time I get around to that, we're going to be living in a world of, carbon credits and the tokenization about that and so on. So I'm going to have apparently working with the platform. Is it going to be this platform? Again, you get where I'm going with this. So yes, you can go and automatically generate carbon credits for your organization's projects. We mentioned that. Guarantee of origin interface directly with your plant's operations to calculate carbon intensity in real time. I don't know. Some of these things just seem so bizarre, but this is the reality of the near future. Carbon Central. Basically, like it says, it allows customers to onboard themselves from the earliest stages of the project establishment and allowing them to leverage the capabilities. TYM LES's DMRV tokenization tech easily and not experience delays while their operations enter production. I mean, if anything, maybe I should prepare for the future. And like I said, onboard myself to the early stages. That way, just like with crypto, I don't regret it later and say to myself, oh man, I wish I would have, got involved in some of these things during the accumulation phase. I mean, that's one way you can look at it. We gave you that little example earlier. We did talk briefly about digital twin. What about this being a trust chain? Check this out for a second. So Tim Les trust chain provides immutable proof of each stage of the production process from cradle to grave. My God, with unrivaled granularity and transparency for any policy type or product type, from carbon offsets to green resources. The trust chain provides producers with detailed reports for each unit of token they create. And that in itself is a big, big deal. We talk about the supply and demand. With Overledger, that ease of access of creating a token. Okay, what about this particular platform, that ease of access of being able to see how much it's going to cost, the energy consumption of all this? And here's the representation of this. So if anything, I will blow this up a little bit more because I know it's probably a little hard for you guys to see it where you're at. Let me see. Hopefully I can do that. Let me see if I can just pull this back up. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see right here, the type, the meter calibration. I mean, these are old dates, but I mean, you can apply it like, for instance, today. So let's say that, you were going to start your own token and like how much is it going to cost and so on. Well, it talks about like the date, the time it took, like 15 minutes and 50 seconds. It was manually entered, for instance. You have meter installation, you have meter reading. And again, it just gives you a full report on it, right? It's called 1T green hydrogen. Trust chain, the Timles, probably not pronounced that right, but it's okay. Trust chain provides immutable proof of each stage of the production process from, I already mentioned that. Again, it's because I zoomed in so much that I probably messed up the page a little bit. But the bottom line is this, guys. The bottom line is that, like it says, for any policy type or product type from carbon offsets to green resources, the trust chain provides producers with detailed reports of each unit of token they create. Again, another utility layer for Hedera that you might not have been aware of. That's a big deal. And if anything, that's recent news in regards to Hedera. Let me know what you guys think about it. I know some of you guys are very mixed when it comes to the whole concept of, tokenized carbon offsets and so on. To each his own. But the reality is, it's literally going to be here sooner than we think. It's literally right around the corner. All right. Kick it back into comments just here briefly. The next part of what we have for the coverage of tonight is going to get into Casper. Not Caspa, but Casper. All right. And there's a big update that was today that I definitely want to share with you. This is probably one of the biggest parts of our coverage for tonight, other than what we shared with Jasmine earlier. But as far as modern news or most up-to-date news, this is probably the biggest news because it's recent. Excuse me. All right, let's get back into the comments. I think we have a few more. So let's see here. You guys are talking about some interesting stuff. Orwell was base 33. Energy Web announced their Polkadot crowd loan for September 5th. Thanks for sharing that, Orwell. Welcome back. All right. Le Grand Commission. Le Grand Commission. Exactly 3 years ago, September 2020, ETH began to move to the upside, and in just 7 months, it 10x'd. Thank you for that. That is interesting. Shout out to Le Grand Commission. All right. All right, Michael Cornwell says BRICS to officially abandon the US dollar for trade settlements. Ooh. CBDC, XRP, the world reserve currency. All right, where is Magic? He was here earlier. He probably had to take off or something. That's all right. Hum not dump. I knew. Oh, wait, you got a new avatar. Hold on a second. Let's see what's going on with that. There's the crab legs in your avatar, I think. All right, let's see here. He says, I knew I was stoned when I got what? I was watching TV and thought Max was my MIT professor. What the heck? Well, I wish, but if anything, I want to be like Gary Gensler, be a freaking, he's like literally the Benedict Arnold of crypto. I'm going to keep pounding that home because he is. He's literally the Benedict Arnold of crypto. He was such a big proponent of crypto, especially DLT, blockchain, all that stuff. And then he just, I don't know, man, like joined the dark side, So he's the Benedict Arnold of crypto. He's the Darth Vader of crypto. I don't know, He was Anakin and he joined the dark side. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Professor Max class is in session. Thanks. All right. We're going to read a couple more comments. Let's see here. Have you ever checked out Everlodge token? No, I have not. You could share with us why we should probably check that out. We got time to get into it. All right, Hump, not Dump. It's got a new avatar again. What is this? Huh. I don't know what that is, but that looks interesting. All right, 6 major automakers agreed to end gas car sales globally by 2040. Ford, GM, Mercedes-Benz, and others, along with 30 nations, signed a pledge to eliminate sales of new gas and diesel-powered cars by 2035. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Let me see what we got. So we have Casper that's left. We have one little segment on IOTA. And then we have, I think that's it. Yeah. Casper and IOTA. That will be what we have left for you guys. Please smash that like. Let's jump into it right now. Even though we have 32 people here right now, it is what it is. When there's a lot of fear in the market, our numbers are down. That's just the way it works. When people are very bullish, the numbers come back. It's just LeGrand knows what I'm talking about. All right. No, I use wired internet all the time. It's because LeGrand, you got to keep in mind, I mentioned this, and it's okay if you haven't seen this. This is not me being disgusted. It's the stupid Cox Communications guys. They've been working on this internet crap on the end of the block for literally the last 3 weeks, and it's super annoying. And they choose random times to do it, and there's no ETA on when they're going to fix it. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. So sometimes you're going to see them a little blurry. I can't help it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as bad as like how it was with Larry, but it is a little frustrating. So it is what it is. All right. So let's see here. Let's get into the part about Casper real quick. Let's see where we're at. All right. Yeah. To anybody that's ever thought about streaming, you're not supposed to stream with wireless. It's going to be really crappy. All right. Let's get into it. I'm going to use that as a bookmark from Legrand. Let's pull this up. Here it is from Casper. Did you know? Let me see if I'm on the screen. Yeah, here we go. Casper. Let's start again. Let's start off with Casper. So check this out. Here's the recent report. Casper blockchain hits 2 million in block height. Huge thanks, of course, to the community. Trace back their journey in regards to block hashes here. Not going to necessarily do that, but this was reported this morning. I think it's a big deal. And if anything, we're going to bring it to you guys here in a moment. So I want to share a little bit more about this because I mean it's a big accomplishment, right? We can of course go down that journey if we choose to do so, but what I really want to point out to you guys is a little bit more of what was reported from Casper. They retweeted this officially from the X Frontier. A lot of you guys follow X Frontier, Kevin Cage, and so on. So check this out. Actus. We haven't talked about this for a while, but it's still very important. So here's the update. So it talks about how the Actus standard condenses 98% of all financial activity into 32 algorithmic smart financial contracts, and it will soon be the ISO standard. Remember in the past, we always talk about, Casper, like they're not officially ISO 222, but it seems like they're going to be. Well, here you go. Here's another thing about just that. Casper is just one public chain building on the standard through its joint ventures over at Nucleus Finance. And of course, like it says, their joint venture of Casper Labs, Ariadne, building financial solutions on Casper's blockchain. Now it says ADA, as in Cardano, Ethereum, are also building on this work. Based on his research as an X Frontier, Casper seems to be the only one with a live use case, and he's happy to be proved wrong, right? I like that. Sometimes even myself, like I'm not right all the time, He believes more chains will eventually leverage Actus in the future, which in his opinion will be healthy for the DOT ecosystem overall because of interoperability. As this guy, who is Ralph Kubli, right? He mentions below, he verifies the moment of assets across chains, and he points out how it's important, but it's critical to verify the asset class itself, the life cycle management, cash flows, valuations, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to play this. This is pretty well done, right? You just got to like one of the key highlights here. I want to play for you guys because it's been a while since we shared some Casper news for you. Hey, let's not forget about Casper. Check this out. Smash that like. Here we go.
We at Casper, when we built something in finance, we built everything on the what we call the Actus standard. By the way, not just Casper is building on this standard. Cardano has also implemented parts of this standard, certain people in the Ethereum environment. So the standard is the result of the financial crisis in 2008, when some really intelligent people got together and said, we knew we didn't know anything, so we have to change this. And we need to bring transparency to the cash flows on a systemic level, right? The reason why we're building on an open source standard is we want to have asset interoperability, right? So it doesn't matter where the asset's going to live. If the asset lives on Cardano and the asset lives on Casper, or another asset lives on Casper, we need to be able to compare these two assets, right? If it's a bond lives on Cardano, or a bond lives in a by the way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be on blockchain. If the bond lives, in DTCC, and if the bond lives, in a Morgan Stanley, or in a bank's, lifecycle management system, ideally they're identical, right? And hopefully they're also lifecycle managed identically. The reality is they're not, which is why we have these reconciliation problems, which is why we have these systemic crises from time to time, because people disagree on what certain values are on individual firms' balance sheets, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, what I want to jump back to before we get out of this, okay, is a little bit more of what we have from Casper, and this is good as well. Well, again, guys, it's nice to get a lot of condensed, updated news in regards to Casper. But check this out as well. This comes straight from the Casper network. I'll come out of the frame, or come back in the frame, I should say. And I will give you a little brief gist of this real quick before we play this other quick 42-second video. It says it's time to get serious about real finance, right? Smart financial contracts should be the basis for the innovation of financial systems. So again, if you're new to Casper, and just on the surface, we're always reporting on Stellar in regards to Sorbonne as a key smart contract platform for Stellar. But this is Casper we're talking about here. But the key thing is on this one is a smart financial contract, right? Yes, I would agree. It should be the basis for innovation of financial systems. This is where Casper has always stood out, in my opinion, in the past. We talked about so many projects building on Casper, but how about this? So many different ones in the financial sector with smart contracts. If we believe in dApps, understand that there's also going to be financial dApps. How big will that be for Casper? And especially how big will that be for you as a holder of the actual, the coin, right? So Mark Greenslade, who is the head of R&D at Casper Association, had this recent conference, and we're going to jump into this real quick. Again, it's just real brief, and we'll be right back. Here we go.
So my name is Mark Greenslade. I'm head of R&D at the Casper Network, and we're here in Washington, D.C. to support the work of the Actus Foundation. The support of that work from the Casper Network perspective is all about getting serious and real about finance. Until now, blockchain systems have focused very much upon primitive financial instruments such as currencies, or maybe NFTs, or maybe collateralized DeFi products. But really, we want to start engaging with real-world finance. And that begins and ends with financial contracts. So my name is Mark Green.
All right. So basically speaking, there's of course a little bit more, but I want to just take a pause to reflect on that. Yeah. He didn't come out and say it, but it's kind of like a nice little slap to, meme tokens and, NFTs that just, let's just be honest. All right. Some of them just are just like seems like glorified JPEGs, right? Yeah, you could sell them, on market on places like OpenSea and whatnot, but do some of these have actual utility? Well, what about a platform that can provide you some kind of utility, right? And especially being able to create a platform where you have maybe hundreds of actual financial contracts, smart financial contracts. Don't you think that's going to be big in itself? We talk about, for instance, like mutual funds and stuff like that. You're trying to tell me that maybe some of these investments that you've, been in tune with for many years as a customer or a client, they're not going to be innovative and recognize the future of where things are going. You better believe that they're going to want a platform where not only is it fast and efficient and easy to use, but where they can have a dev be able to easily deploy what their vision is based on that smart contract. They don't even need to know it's called a smart contract, right? They're just, that investment firm, if you will, who just is like, you know what, we really need a platform to get on, be onboarded, and we just need it to work. Can you guys do this for us? Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm so and so from, from Casper, and we can get that deployed for you and so on. All right, multiply that by like literally hundreds of different financial smart contracts. You don't think that's going to be big in itself? And that is just one of many different things that Casper brings to the table. This is why I will not also dismiss Casper. I'm not going to give into the recent FUD of what's going on in the market and say, you know what, Casper's not moving. Like I've always mentioned before, utility in motion without the implementation of, smart financial contracts. You still got to give it a chance to get to these points. We're still building. We're still so very early. All right, that concludes the Casper coverage for today. Been a long time since we actually got into some of these detailed reports from Casper, but glad to do it. The last thing we'll bring you guys tonight on tonight's show, we're now just past the 2-hour mark, is going to be IOTA. Yeah, believe it or not, this will be the first time we actually will have on the live show. I should say on the live show. We talked about on the live show. But if anything, chopped up into a recorded video for IOTA. So we'll get into that here in a bit. Please smash the like. I'll read the last bit of comments, see what we have. I'm going to get into this one. And it's T. Wildman. Max, did you hear that some of the new electric vehicles can mine crypto? I did not hear that. That's interesting. Daymac has announced an electric car that can mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies while parked. Wow, that's unbelievable. I mean, I just, when you think about Bitcoin, it's like a lot of energy consumption. So that's interesting. I'll add that one to the list. So we got XPR Proton. Let's add that one to the list. Daymark. Guys, I don't know if I have the time, or Daymac, sorry, to get into all this stuff, but I will definitely put it there. And if I do have time that opens up, I'll look more into it. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right, Michael Corma, it's almost time, ladies and gents. The boomerang is here. All right. Read the last bit of comments. Hum Not Dump. Spiritus Avenir electric vehicle seems to be blending the best of both worlds. The company has built an electric vehicle named Spiritus that allows the drivers to get into the cryptocurrency mining. That's another company that makes electric cars that also allows you to mine Bitcoin. These jokers have been staking and mining 24 hours a day, basically parking their car. I know you didn't mention parking your car, but I mean, come on, it's a given. 2 reasons why Casper IOU token rallied 2,300% in 1 week. Can anyone tell me? Wow. Interesting. All right. I want to get into the last bit of coverage we have because I really don't want to make this 3 hours because you know what? We only have a little bit left anyway. All right. So glad to share some of that with you guys. Let's jump into some IOTA. And again, this comes straight from IOTA. So we're going to jump into this. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. All right. Here it is in regards to IOTA. So 11 hours ago, it was reported. And am I even in the screen? No, I'm not. Sorry about that. Let me pull up the banners back up again. Hold on. There we go. All right. So straight from IOTA. Again, earlier today, 9:14 a.m. The crypto community, including IOTA, joined forces to provide feedback during the negotiations of what the Data Act and the conversations about this impact on the industry are still happening. Now, why would I all of a sudden mention IOTA? Don't you love how I tie some things together? So this is the end segment of what we have for you guys tonight. The beginning segment of the live show, what we talked about Jasmine. We talked about data free flow with trust. I see where Max went with this. Oh yeah, you better believe that's what I do sometimes. let's get into this. EU Data Act smart contract kill switch brings uncertainty. Well, is this the other side of the debate? Well, we're going to show you this. So I'm going to take you to this other page. And, it talks about EU lawmakers who have reached a political consensus on the Data Act that has a kill switch for smart contracts. Now, you should pay attention to this, even if you don't own IOTA, because we talk about smart contracts all the time. Literally just talk about one that was a smart financial contract. We talk about Sorbonne. We talk about smart contracts all day long. So if there's going to be a kill switch for smart contracts, I think we should all pay attention to this, right? It's causing an uproar in the crypto community. On June 28th, the European Council and Parliament achieved a political consensus on that Data Act. That, of course, moves the legislation regarding non-personal data closer to fruition. Thierry Breton of the European Union, he's a commissioner for the internal market, described the agreement in an X post. I like how they're now calling it X, right? So just Twitter. Milestone in the reshaping of the digital space. Here's what he states. He says, thanks to swift work of the EP and the council presidency, we are on the way of a thriving data economy that is innovative and open on our conditions. The Data Act complements the Data Governance Act of November 2020. Remember, we gave you some background of the Data Governance Act on the Jasmy segment earlier. And again, if you're not even a Jasmy, if you don't even own Jasmy, you could catch up on some of that because it's a good little piece for you. But it goes on to state that basically during that time frame, this clarified who can create value from data and under which conditions. It stems from the European strategy for data. Of course, this announced all the way back in February 2020, which also aims to position the EU as a regulatory frontrunner in the era of data-driven society. The Data Act is part of that European Commission's wider data strategy aimed at making Europe a global leader in the data agile economy. Again, when we were talking about Tara Kono from Japan going over and, being a proponent and sharing the concepts of data free flow with trust and so on, why would he all of a sudden go straight to Margaret Vestager, who represents the European Union in regards to, some of these data concepts and so on? He had to, right? And then if anything, he was like, who's the next person I need to talk to? He went to Finland. He went to, Latvia and some of the other places. So in simple terms, the Data Act proposes new rules on who can access and use data generated in the EU across all economic sectors. Gives you, of course, some of these examples that you see here. For instance, what we just basically mentioned. But as far as the Data Act to become law, this is good stuff. It must be approved by a vote of the European Parliament and the Council, which represent the bloc's 27 member states. Once again, as with the markets and crypto assets, MiCA regulation. How many times have we talked about MiCA? Multiple times. The crypto sector is facing a major challenge. So what is the major challenge? The problem raised by the new EU data law could permanently change the use of smart contracts in the European Economic Area, EEA, and not for the better. And then, of course, this is kind of to create FUD in the market. Let's just be honest about that. So here's the reference in regards to the smart contract kill switch. Again, guys, you don't have to own IOTA to pay attention to this, but it's worth paying attention to because it affects everybody. Sorry, didn't mean to do the crypto Hulk every 30 seconds, but anyway. The blockchain community is largely concerned about one division in the Data Act. And this is what we're going to point out. And that basically is These agreements that contain a quote unquote kill switch by which they could be terminated or halted in the event of a security breach. Many blockchain experts contend that the current definition of smart contracts in the Data Act is broad, fearing it may lead to unintended consequences for existing smart contracts on public blockchains. For example, the text of the upcoming law doesn't distinguish between just digital contracts and smart contracts utilizing distributed ledger technology. Now, before we get further into this, my goodness, hold on a second. Jeez. I want to state this. So we know that Solana back in, especially like 2021, really stood out, right? It people invested into Solana early, did very well. It blew up. It was one of the standout ones for 2021, right? But a lot of people FUD Solana because they don't like the idea of it going down. But one thing we also know about Solana is, just that, some of those smart contracts, right? So you can imagine, having a situation kind of like Solana, but instead of it being like random or on accident or just not, like, hey, did they pay their power bill? I mean, people joke about it. But instead of having a situation like that, you have literally multiple Solanas, if you will, happening all at once through multiple blockchains. You can understand how that is a very concerning, because if anything, you're going to tank the market. We talk about black swan events. It's not necessarily a black swan event, but it's a breakdown in the system intentionally done based on, like, hey, the European Union literally has a kill switch. I mean, I hate to call it anything else other than it is. They literally, you picture, like, I should say Klaus Schwab, but I mean, just whoever that is could just kill it for multiple blockchains with the flip of a switch. So we talk about the flip of the switch of the utility on. What about the flip of the switch for a kill switch for these smart contracts? Again, you don't have to own IOTA to not want to pay attention to this. So again, a little bit more in regards to this. So the example of the text of the upcoming law doesn't distinguish between just digital contracts and smart contracts utilizing distributed ledger technology. Sorry, I already read that part. But above all, the Data Act supposedly doesn't give clear details about the conditions under which safe termination or interruption kill switch should occur, and it's hard to predict the potential outcomes with a higher degree of certainty. The smart contract architecture often doesn't allow for termination or interruption, as blockchain's tech is praised for being immutable and irreversible. So, when you read that, it's like, well, what's the big deal here? All right. And I would be with you on that. All right. Again, a little bit more. The Data Act also doesn't exactly say a data sharing agreement. Basically doesn't say what that is. Also goes on to explain that if the smart contracts currently ubiquitous in Web3 applications follow these kinds of agreements, I got my head of myself on that, I apologize. But it says, by design, most smart contracts don't offer termination or interruption feature. But the key thing is it says most, right? Shouldn't we have a key thing where all don't have a termination? I mean, I don't know. Some people feel as though that should be the case. I remember a while back with Hedera, we had, like an insurance policy. Do you guys remember this? Where we had, for instance, those proxies. So that was like designed for, insurance policy, where we didn't want these hackers having direct access to, like the main IPs, if you will, right? Hence why everything was, behind like some proxies. Well, this is different, right, in regards to the termination. But like it says also, it says there's a feature that, has unupgradable to higher levels of protection from abusive behaviors. Why isn't there, why are they unupgradable? I don't know. But this lady, Marina Markezic, who's executive director and co-founder of the European Crypto Initiative, told Cointelegraph this quote: "The fact that smart contracts lack such features," and listen to this part, it Just, especially if you just like kind of drifted off. This puts their use and developments at risk. They may be perceived as inconsistent with regulatory requirements. So my thing is this, all right? DFFT covers all the regulatory requirements. And if anything, has things in writing on what is allowed by what the government can do and what they can't do. Does this conflict with obviously DFFT? I think it does. Is DFFT going to be, from what we showed you guys earlier, the new proponent for the framework or what we're trying to get to? Yes, absolutely. Is what was mentioned and cited here an old, outdated system from 2020? Yes, it is. What is going to replace this system? DFFT. So should we panic too much in regards to this? My answer is no. I don't think we should panic too much in regards to this, because my answer, and again, this is just my opinion based off my own research, is that we recognize the what ifs, kind of like they're recognizing it. But I don't want people to read into it too much where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to go sell my crypto because we're going to have multiple Solanas. Is it a possibility? Absolutely. Anything's a possibility. The bottom line is just recognizing the what is. Now, if you're the type of person which, dude, you're wrong, Max, that's fine. We're going to jump more into this. Look at this. The problem is if the scope of Article 30 were to be extended beyond the application of smart contracts in this narrowly defined context on public permissionless networks, it becomes not only problematic, but also impossible for such protocols to comply. Per Volater, another concern is whether these rules could spill over to decentralized finance. We do not have a DeFi regulation. This is a question that will need an answer over the next 18 months. Right. And again, I will advise people, I should say advise people because it's never financial advice, but I'll give you guys the educational side of things. And that basically is, if you look more into DFFT, it covers not just the whole concept of global government data governance, but it also talks about DeFi as well. You can't have a situation where you ignore DeFi. We talk about, for instance, especially in Japan, the concepts of, for instance, getting on some of the, getting away from the exchanges, the centralized exchanges. Remember, we talked about the super wallet will initiate or incentivize, especially like with Jasmine when it comes to not even needing centralized exchanges. So yes, like what it says, as we do not have a DeFi regulation, this is a question that will need to be answered in the next 18 months. Right. We got to keep in mind the whole thing with DFFT is not set, so it's a done deal right now. If anything, is sitting down that framework, though, in the United States, especially, like we confirmed earlier at the beginning of the show, is basically copying what DFFT is to begin with, and not just from, the perspective of some of these other concepts, but literally includes some of that DeFi regulation. All right. In regards to more of this doom and gloom, and I know it sounds kind of scary, moreover, kill switches can have errors because of human mistakes in smart contracts in general. And this part I do love, and I will reference Sorbonne. Notice the whole concept of they keep testing and they do. This is the concept of hackathons, right? You want your devs to just keep like hammering it and trying all sorts of different things. Could there still be errors? Absolutely. This is the whole concept of, having hackathons and then having test nets and then being convinced that, okay, it's ready to go to mainnet. But even when it goes to mainnet, you still have updates. You know what I mean? So it goes on to state that as they are rigid, bounded information environments, this rigidity, if I pronounce that right, plus an automatic feature that triggers a certain outcome following strict rules could lead to issues like locking up assets, shutting down protocols, or even losing funds and important data, said Volter. Bottom line, again, guys, and this is, you can look more into this if you want. I'll drop this into the comments. And I don't know if there's a lot of people that want to do this at this time of night, but there it is right there. Right, drop it in the comments. But my key takeaway is this. Again, you can look more into it and so on. This is the old, outdated system from 2020. This is going to be radically changed with what we're going to have with DFFT. And of course, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. The Data Act has rules for vendors of an app using smart contracts or for people whose business involves deploying smart contracts. So is it doom and gloom? Or should we really focus on this all that much? Why did I even bring it to you? Well, I had to, because the way I looked at it, there's a lot of things that were not too long ago, because it does state in closing on this segment that back in April 2023, was only a few months ago, Polygon had already penned an open letter suggesting how to improve Article 30, stating that lawmakers could apply these rules to enterprises only, excluding software and developers, and make clear that smart contracts aren't agreements in and of themselves. So it's like a contract, in reality, a contract is an agreement, right? So is that an oxymoron? Teach his own. More recently, the European Crypto Initiative and numerous organizations such as, and I just talked about this earlier, did I not? Excuse me. Stellar, IOTA, Polygon, Near, Coinbase, Cardano, and Consensus have signed an open letter voicing their concerns regarding the Data Act and calling all lawmakers to reconsider and clarify certain aspects. Who did lawmakers call on when it came to, can we have a great, clear, concise standardization of a new Data Act, if you will? What was that? DFFT. And we showed you the proof at the beginning of the show, hence why I do these types of things. I start off with one outline and I close it with another. And if anything, I try to tie it in all together. That concludes our coverage for tonight. I know it seemed like, hey, this is supposed to be IOTA. It was kind of a weird way to bring it to you guys, but it was kind of throwing all this together. But glad to bring it to you guys nonetheless. Please smash that like if you haven't done so already. In closing, I'm going to read the last part of what we have, and it's from Badir, aka Crypto Winter. Not that one, my bad. I'm going to do this one. It says May 10th, 2021. Casper appears to be following. I already read that one. Legrand Commission. Max, what's your next opinion? 20K BTC or 30K? I'll give you an answer probably by the end of the week. I'm kind of mixed about that one. I want to see the weekend update, and I'm going to draw my own conclusion. I just think that's probably the right way to do that. I don't really have an answer on that as we speak. Hump says, Legrand, I would say both till next year. You just made perfect price action box of 20K to 30K. All right. Humpty also says 20K Bitcoin. Let's poor people, not 4 people, like me, get together and own one Bitcoin, and also has 30K for institutional investors is a good price for them. LeBron says, as September is bad as usual, we might see BTC under 20K. All right. Humpty is crying and laughing. He says, outage after time out, aka outages, but now for the last 2 months, she is Solana, no outages. Yeah, funny how that works, right? So that one's supposed to have no more outages, and then we see that report, and people are like panicking. But I mean, it's worth noting, if we're all gung ho, and trust me, I'm very gung ho on smart contracts. Why would I go out of my way to report to you guys the whole concept of what's going on with Sorbonne or what's going on with Casper with smart financial contracts if I didn't believe that, those are the keys towards a thriving ecosystem? Literally, no pun intended, they are the keys to a thriving ecosystem. You have to have key smart contracts in order for devs to come in and build. Without that, you don't have it. You know what I mean? All right. Let me read Edwards because I don't get the chance to read a lot of Edwards' comments. Sorry about that, Mr. Squid. He just had a crazy mental moment where he just realized how much information as a whole that you have covered, Max. The original thought was, how could I get a robot to scan each episode to pull all info? Oh, that'd be amazing if we had some kind of AI to do that. That would save me a lot of time, my friend. All right, there is no way to control DeFi. Yeah, that's a good point, but I don't like the idea of a kill switch. It's not killing every aspect, but that would be a huge problem. Because it's like, what's a great example of this, guys? Here's a great example. Stellar as we know it. Okay, stellar as we know it. We don't necessarily have, to a sense. I mean, to the exception of like what Stronghold, there's Lobster, there's stuff like that. But I'm saying as far as like actual token contracts, we're not quite there yet when it comes to Stellar, but we are going to be when it comes to Sorbonne. So can you imagine a situation, and hear me out, where when we talk about 70 projects being onboarded at once, because that's the plan. This is not me making it up. We got verification of it. All's good. Then you do have a situation on that where there's a kill switch. It would be basically okay, back to where we're at right now. Like how much, when you talk about a rug pull, that's scary stuff, right? Am I worried about too much? No, because again, the way I look at it, DFFT is what's going to prevail from all of this, right? And the cooler heads will look at the greater scheme of things and say to themselves, look, this is an old outdated model for data governance. Here's the new plan. We're going with this plan. We already have got it going on. And again, you already see the United States already getting on board with it and so on. We showed you the proof at the beginning of the show. So for me, I'm not panicking with it, but I do recognize it because it's worth pointing out. All right. Hump says the world government better take the good with the bad to control DeFi and the equivalent to cracking SHA-256 without quantum computer. Okay. Cash Cat says, good night, fam. Good night. Great show, Max. Thanks. Yeah, you guys are welcome. All right. We'll see you guys back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, roughly in that time range. There's like a 15-minute window. Appreciate you guys. And please smash that like on your way out. You all have a great night. And if you are like Mike Cornwell, you will leave your YouTube on your TV. You will fall asleep doing whatever you do with your glasses on and so on. And in the middle of the night, at roughly 3 a.m., when you think all is safe and you're having a great dream of lobster and shrimp and all that stuff that you're into, I like that stuff too, you'll hear out of nowhere as you conk off, doing your snore of, go have it sooner! And it is guaranteed to happen at some point to not just Mike Cornwell, but maybe Brian Dowie or whoever else does that, especially on the weekends. Maybe you guys don't do that on the weekdays. All right, I'll keep you. Have a great one. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Legrand. Humpty, the legal bill to fight DeFi is big, big, big. And Elon Musk says, lol. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, here comes the outro. And stay tuned for the outro. We're going to do something a little unconventional. This is for all the old school people. So this is a little cartoon I made from last year in regards to Luna Classic. Yes. You can stay tuned for it, or you can leave. Choose whatever you want to. It's a little short thing, and then we'll do episode 2 tomorrow. Here we go.
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
Yes, Lord Sidious. Understood. Screw you, CZ. You are not even part of Terra. I will show you. I will show everyone. You guys are going to get a fork, whether you like it or not. have got to get out of here. The people of Seoul are setting the city on fire. Okay, I think I'm going to head to the safe house. Hopefully no police will follow me. The streets are blocked off. I'm going to have to lay low at the hideout for a while. Hey, Duquan, you're gonna have to lay low here for a few days. Just give us a little bit more time and we'll get you out of the country. Don't do anything stupid, and if anything, if you get hungry, you can use the microwave. Use a microwave? What do I look like? A poor person to you? I've never used a microwave in my entire life.